In my two previous videos about the process of making songs with Udio, I have focused on individual songs and what methods I choose to achieve a finished result with the song ready to be added to an album. With this video, I want to try something a little different, with more of an overview of how I go about creating an album in such a way that the finished product is a cohesive piece of work that makes sense as an album. A few weeks ago, I started a new AI band project called Sonic Paradox, a band that I imagined existed in the 1970s, contemporaries of my favourite proggy bands of the era, namely Genesis, Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, PFM, and Jethro Tull, amongst others. Interest in this band has been encouraging, with sales of albums from all over the world via my Bandcamp page, and even merch in the way of t-shirts and framed copies of the first album cover. I have swiftly built up a back catalogue of Sonic Paradox albums, with 11 of them now completed. This video looks at the creation of the 12th. Although some albums I have done have been little more than a collection of songs, for most there is at least a vague connection between the album title and the songs therein. The title of the second one, Magic Ocean for example, was chosen at a late stage once the final track, Castaway, was added, which has a general nautical theme. The third, The Tregarth Chronicles, was a half-hearted attempt at a concept album about a mythical realm called Tregarth, with fierce battles and a deposed king, evoking a sort of Lord of the Rings vibe, although there is no detailed narrative. Cortege for the Planet is loosely about climate change. Seven Wonders was inspired by the Seven Wonders of the world, and it also had 7 tracks, which was convenient. All of these albums required artwork, an album cover if you will, and it's a fun process to create these, more of which later. White Sand, for example, was aiming to ape the work of Roger Dean, best known for his Yes album designs. The Triumph of Time is self-explanatory, and the latest, Alabaster, is deliberately misspelled in case anyone thought I was illiterate. And so, I was ready to start the 12th Sonic Paradox album, and an idea occurred to me to hang the album around the subject of Zen. Now, I cannot claim to be any kind of authority on Zen, but I do read a lot of books about philosophy in general, and have read the famous book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which was all the rage back in the day. Although I have a large archive of my own lyrics, I tend to rely on public domain poetry for many of the words for Sonic Paradox songs, but for a full album about one subject I turned to good old ChatGPT for inspiration. Firstly, I asked it to list 20 popular Zen sayings, which it duly did. I took the first 6 it listed and asked it to generate a set of lyrics inspired by each saying. ChatGPT is notoriously poor at generating lyrics, so I asked it to avoid cliches and hackneyed phrases, which does go some way to weeding out the crass. It came up with 6 decent lyrics, one of which, Chop Wood, Carry Water, I split into 2 songs, Chop Wood, then Carry Water, to make a total of 7 songs. I went through the usual process I have outlined in some detail in my first 2 videos on this subject, Udio in Action, the making of, so I won't go into such detail here on the actual process of creating the songs, or we might have a 4-hour video. So I had the 7 songs completed, all in the style of 1970s progressive rock, with hints also of jazz fusion and psychedelia, caused by my now complex prompt list which grows day by day. I do advise to keep a text file with your favourite prompts, which can build into a long list that you can go back to as and when. The first job I had was to sequence the songs, so the album flowed. As it wasn't a pure concept album, just a themed one, I didn't need to worry about any narrative structure, so I carefully listened to the beginning and end of each song for the best fit. I knew I wanted to start with a song called Let Go or Be Dragged, as I had inserted a spoken word introduction that recited a couple of the verses. I turned again to AI for the narration using a site called 11 Labs that offers all manner of AI-created voices for any number of uses. I chose a deep, authoritative male voice, something like a Richard Burton type. So the album kicks off with a narration and the first song proper.
No need to fight the current, no need to hold so tight. There's peace in every moment, in the fading light. I'll give my hands to water, let the earth beneath me slide. The pull was never mine to hold, the tide is still my guide. Let go or be dragged, the river doesn't wait. Flowing through the cracks, it bends but never breaks. I'm learning how to loosen all the knots inside my chest. Let go or be dragged, I'm leaving what's left.
I thought the song I split into two, namely Chop Wood and Carry Water, would be best placed second and seventh, as they shared many of the same lyrics, so best to keep them as far apart as possible. Tracks 3 to 6 were sequenced based on how they began and ended, and how they flowed from one to the other, so with the music all done, I turned to the cover artwork. Again, AI provides the solution. I tend to use Bing DAL 3, using quite elaborate prompts, but on this occasion I thought I would simply put in the word Zen and see what it produced. As usual, it didn't disappoint and gave me a number of potential candidates. Here's a selection of them. I finally chose this one. I chose a suitable font for the title, and then, as is usual, I asked one of my sons to add the Sonic Paradox band logo, as it requires Photoshop to do it properly, and they are both proficient at it. So I have the artwork and the album done. The next stage is to add it to my Bandcamp page and wait, sometimes in vain, for the sales to roll in. Once it is up on Bandcamp, I can then put it into Discogs database, which marks it as an official release. I have had my own record label for many years, Opportunes, so it is put on Discogs with a dedicated catalogue number and a link back to my Bandcamp page. The final task is to upload it to streaming services, which I do through CD Baby. Each album costs about £8 depending on the exchange rate, and it takes about 20 minutes to do each album. It takes 5 to 7 days for it to reach sites such as Spotify, YouTube Music, Prime, iTunes, etc. Now I have a small catalogue of releases on streaming. I do get occasional revenue payments, but certainly not enough to cover the costs. But I am not in it for any money, just the thrill of creating these wonderful pieces of music. It might sound odd, but I am a genuine fan of my band Sonic Paradox, although I contribute some lyrics and have some small say in the song's construction, arrangement and overall sound. The actual music comes from some magic AI kingdom, courtesy of all the training data that is put in at the beginning. I listen to their music and enjoy it just as much as my favourite bands such as Yes and Genesis. I am in no way finished with this project. There's many more albums to come. If you wish to listen to Zen, I have put links to Bandcamp and some streaming options in the description. I hope this was useful and informative for those who are wanting to create their own albums using artificial intelligence.
strong.